everyone and welcome back to Natural Beauty by Anna. I'm Anna and today I'm gonna show you what are 5 skin and hair care recipes that you can make yourself using Rhassoul Clay. In my recent videos, you might have seen the one in which I unboxed a whole new bunch of skincare products from Botanic Universe, and among them there was this new type of clay called Rhassoul Clay that I had never used before, that I wasn't very familiar with. I bought it specifically because I wasn't familiar with it and I was curious to see how I can use it and what effects it would have on my skin. So here I am today bringing you 4 different ways in which you can use Rhassoul Clay in your skin and hair care routine. Now, before we begin, a little bit about the Rhassoul Clay. It contains many different minerals, but it is mostly rich in magnesium and potassium, which are known to help protect the skin from external damage. In fact, researchers suggest that the clay can act as a protective barrier while eliminating toxic substances to which the skin is exposed from the environment, pollution and so on. And the clay is also abundant in silica, a component of sand which acts as an exfoliant. Now, when I started this kind of series in which I'm telling you in which different ways and what different recipes you can make with one ingredient, I wanted to have 5 recipes, but for the Rhassoul Clay I only have 4 recipes. I felt like adding a 5th one might be a little bit of a push, it might be too forced, or it might just repeat something that I had already done, and I didn't want to do that. I felt like I should keep it down to the essentials, so yeah, here there are 4 different recipes in which you can use Rhassoul Clay. And for the fun of it, I will leave you to a few seconds of me opening this brand new bag of clay, ASMR style. The first recipe, Rhassoul Clay Cleanser. If you have watched my previous video in which I talk about different ways in which you can use Tamanu oil in your skincare, you've seen me mix there a clay-based cleanser. So here I am with a similar recipe. However, last time I felt like the cleanser ended up being a little bit too thick, so I decided to simplify the recipe a little bit to keep it thinner in consistency. And so the only 2 ingredients that I have used for this cleanser are 1 teaspoon of Rhassoul Clay and 2 teaspoons of aloe vera gel juice. And the reason why I chose to go with a clay-based cleanser is because it does clean the skin by drawing the impurities from the pores to itself, so that when you wash it off, you're also washing off the impurities with it. As for the aloe vera gel juice, it is very hydrating and a very good watery base for pretty much any cleanser. Since this cleanser ended up being a lot thinner and more watery, I decided to go with a reusable cotton pad for application rather than just my fingers as I did before. I dipped it into the cleanser and applied it to my face and neck areas, rubbing the skin gently without pulling or dragging the cotton pad, and at the end I removed it with some lukewarm water. I feel like this is a very effective cleanser, but since it has no oil or butter ingredient in it, it does dry my skin quite a bit, so I will be moving on to the second recipe right away. Recipe number 2, Rhassoul Clay Face Scrub. Since I found out about the cleansing properties of clays in general, I've been quite intrigued with it and I started mixing them in different cleansing products like cleansers and scrubs. And for this product, the ingredients that I have used are half a teaspoon of ground coffee, a 1/4 of a teaspoon of Rhassoul Clay, a 1/4 of a teaspoon of grapeseed butter and half a teaspoon of jojoba oil. The combination of jojoba oil and grapeseed butter is one of my favorite to use in scrubs because they create a thick and sleek base for the scrubbing agents, in this case the coffee grounds and the clay, to slide on when I'm applying them to my skin. And yes, those are the exact same measuring spoons that I'm using over and over again, and yes, I am rinsing them between each use. You guys, it takes a while to make these recipes. As for adding the clay to the scrub, I felt like it gave it a slightly thicker texture, making it easier to apply. And as I was rubbing it on my skin, I could actually feel the small particles of clay, much smaller than the ground coffee obviously, getting into the pores and exfoliating my skin. So I guess the clay itself also acts as a much finer scrubbing agent. And after I was done scrubbing my face for about 2 to 3 minutes, I simply removed it with lukewarm water. Moving on to the third recipe on my list, Rhassoul Clay hair mask. You guys, this is the one that I was most excited about when I started looking up recipes that I can make with Rhassoul Clay, and I found out that it is so good to be used in hair mask. I was so excited to try it on, and here's how I did it. The ingredients that I have used for this hair mask are 1 tablespoon of shea butter, 2 teaspoons of castor oil, 2 egg yolks, and 1 teaspoon of Rhassoul Clay. Now, I have made similar hair masks before using only shea butter, castor oil, and egg yolks, so I knew how that would work. However, by adding the Rhassoul Clay, I feel like the mask ended up being easier to remove, and also it left my hair softer to the touch and shinier. The mixture ends up being quite thick, so I believe that having one of those brushes that you would use to paint your hair could be quite useful, but I didn't have one of those, so I applied it using only my fingers, and it did take quite some time. And of course I couldn't help but pair this hair mask with the Rhassoul Clay face mask, which is the fourth recipe of this video. And the ingredients that I have used for this face mask are 1 teaspoon of Rhassoul Clay, half a teaspoon of shea butter, and half a teaspoon of honey. Now, I wanted to try this shea butter and honey based mask out of pure curiosity without adding any thinner liquid ingredient to it, and I have to admit I ended up quite regretting it. The mask ended up being quite thick and chunky and difficult to apply. A thinner oil or a watery ingredient would have definitely helped it. But I worked with what I had, and eventually the mask was on my face. Because of its consistency, it was difficult to judge accurately how well the clay performed, but I have the feeling that it was similar to the Australian green clay I have been using before, only less drying. I left the hair mask and the face mask on for quite some time, almost an hour before I removed them both in the shower. And I actually removed the hair mask using only water. I didn't use any shampoo or any other type of soap. And to my surprise, it actually worked really well. I mean, to be honest, I wasn't that surprised because I had made a similar mask before, as I have said. But the first time I made a mask like this and removed it only with water, I was surprised to see that it actually worked. It cleaned my hair just fine, and it removed without leaving my hair greasy or oily. And it also didn't dry my scalp the way regular shampoos usually do, for which I was very happy. To be honest, I don't know that adding the clay to this mask was necessary for me. My hair doesn't get that oily that it would need a clay to regulate the oil secretion, and my scalp in general is slightly leaning dry. So I feel like adding the clay didn't necessarily help. It didn't do anything bad. I believe that the castor oil and the shea butter moisturized my scalp well enough. I just don't think it added anything for me, so I don't think I will be using it in the future. But if you do have a more oily type of scalp, then adding some clay into a mask like this might actually help. And these are the 4 recipes that I made using Rhassoul Clay. I'm curious to know what you think about them. Have you ever used this clay before? I hadn't heard of it before finding it on this website, and I was very happy with it. I definitely will keep using it, especially in my cleansers and scrubs, as that's where I found it to be the most efficient. What about you? How do you use Rhassoul Clay? Comment in the comment section below. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more videos like this, and give this video a big thumbs up if you liked it. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!